Jonathan Mooney is an award-winning writer, speaker, and activist who has become a leading voice in the neurodiversity and disability rights movements. Diagnosed with dyslexia and ADHD, he did not learn to read until he was 12 years old. Despite early academic challenges and low expectations from educators, he graduated with honors in English literature from Brown University. At Brown, Mooney co-founded Project I, a national mentoring and advocacy organization that pairs students with learning differences with similarly diagnosed college and high school mentors. The organization has expanded to numerous chapters across the United States, working with thousands of students, parents, and educators. Mooney is the author of several influential books, including Learning Outside the Lines, A Short Bus, A Journey Beyond Normal, and Normal Sucks, which I love. His work challenges traditional conceptions of normalcy and advocates for educational societal systems that recognize and celebrate neurodiversity. As a sought-after public speaker, Mooney has delivered lectures in 49 states. Jonathan, I believe Minnesota is the only one that hasn't called, right? In several countries and addressing audiences ranging from students and educators to corporate executives and policymakers. His presentations focusing on reimagining education, inclusion, and the myth of normalcy. Mooney's advocacy and thought leadership have been featured in prominent media outlets such as the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, USA Today, NPR, and HBO. He continues to inspire and empower individuals who learn and think differently, promoting a more inclusive and equitable society. He's not only my very good friend, but also the first person that I ever spoke to about neurodiversity. And neurodivergence when it came to my daughter, and later on about myself. And so I'm so happy that he involved me in the steering committee and the foundation of the DNAC, the Diversity and Neurodivergence Alumni Collective at Brown. Um, Jonathan, please give us your insights and please talk to us a little bit more about Normal Sucks and your journey with this space.
Well, Ivon, thank you for just such a wonderful and heartfelt introduction. It's an honor to share the space with you and Lisa and all of our wonderful um, colleagues and friends from our beloved university. Hey, everybody. My name's Jonathan. As mentioned, I'm class of 2000. I'm also parent and this is weird to say, of class of 29. So that means that my son will be matriculating in the fall, and that means that I am now going to start crying in front of all of you. So forgive me as I embarrass myself. I'm also, as mentioned, the founding co-chair with another wonderful class of 2000 graduate, Eli Wolf, who passed away about 18 months ago as the Disability and Neurodivergent Alumni Collective was being founded. So I always like to take this moment to honor Eli's legacy, a Paralympic athlete, deeply committed to disability rights and justice around the world. It's quite an honor for me to be a part of this gathering tonight and the Brown One Bear One Book initiative. I want to thank the many people behind the scenes that volunteer their time, and that word is really important. Volunteer their time to build community, to build connection amongst this profoundly powerful and important alumni community. I love Brown. I love Brown. I do. In my life, my top five, it goes my wife, who's class of 2000. It goes my three kids, and then it goes Brown. That's what it is in my life. And now that I got three teenagers, I'll be honest, Brown's a little higher on the list some days. I love Brown for I think many of the reasons that we all do. The place, Providence, what a rad place to spend 4 years growing as a human being. I love Brown because of the pedagogy, the focus on learner-centered, purpose-driven education, and I love Brown because of the people, people like Ivon and Lisa, and the thousands that I have met in my travels who are committed to a life of purpose and impact. But I also love Brown for, I think, even more personal reasons. And that's because Brown changed my life. You know, some admissions officer took a risk on a kid who didn't learn to read until he was 12, a kid who spent a lot of the time chilling out with the janitor in the hallway, who grew up on a first name basis with Shirley, the receptionist in the principal's office, a kid who spent pretty much his entire education hiding in the bathroom to escape reading out loud with tears streaming down my face. And there were not many admissions officers, I'll tell you, who were willing to take that risk. But that one at Brown did. And at Brown, I found a new way to learn, an approach to learning that was grounded in one's sense of purpose, interests, and passions, not a prescribed curriculum. And in Brown, I found a community of deep thinkers and a community of neurodivergent individuals that made me feel not alone as somebody who learned differently. My good friend, David Flink, co-founded Eye to Eye, and I believe maybe an Eye to Eye mentor on this, if I'm not mistaken, David Hyman. That would be the most amazing thing in the world if that's true. We'll find out in a minute when we do some Q&A. And I found a sense of purpose and mission in my life at Brown. And that's really what I want to spend the next 20 minutes or so talking about. Obviously, a lot of that purpose and mission is represented and articulated in the subtly titled book, Normal Sucks. But frankly, it goes beyond that. It's bigger than that. You know, I've dedicated my entire professional life, 25 years. And that obviously means it started at Brown University to trying to make the world a better place for folks with different brains and different bodies. And I'll tell you, it's an all hands on deck moment to do better and to do right as a society by folks with brain and body differences. This is a population that has historically been marginalized, demonized, pushed aside, and in our current moment is being marginalized, demonized, and pushed aside. And these folks deserve better. So I want to talk and reflect just a little bit about what I know can make a difference in the life of the 1 in 5 individuals with neurodivergence or disability. 1 in 5. That's a big number. Globally, that's about 1.6 billion humans. So I want to share with you what I advocate for, what I hope in your way you may join me in advocating for. And I want to share what I know makes a difference. If you're a mom, a dad, a caregiver, an educator, a professional who's trying to move the dial for that 1 in 5, what I know changes somebody's life. So there are 3 things. I'll share these 3 things with you pretty quick, and then we'll chop it up together with Ivon. I want to encourage you, of course, to put any questions or comments you may have in the chat. We'll use that as a catalyst for discussion. And then when we get to the Q&A, unmute yourself so we can talk together. So with that in mind, let me share 3 quick things with you. You know, making a difference for that 1.6 billion requires us to redefine who or what we call the problem. You know, Professor Brown gave me a book by Michel Foucault called Discipline and Punish. And it was a professor of education, Cynthia Garcia Cole. And I remember reading in that book, and I quote, "The judges of normality are ever present everywhere." And that stuck with me because we live in a society in which the normal are deemed as good and right, and states of being that differ from the middle of the bell curve, the average, the median, the mean, the norm, are made to feel deficient and wrong. We put the problem inside of them and in some ways make them a problem. I know that personally. I remember when I was diagnosed, and I was diagnosed when I was 8. And my mom and I were called into the school psychologist's office to get the test results. And when my mom and I walked into that office, it was apparent the moment we walked in that everybody in that room thought we were getting terrible, tragic news. You know, the lights were turned down low. There was soft jazz music playing in the background. There was I kid you not, box of tissues on the table because everybody thought that we were there to mourn the death of my normality. And then they proceeded to read from these test results, and it was deficit this, disorder that. And it was soul crushing. And when we were done with that, I walked out of the room and I said, "Hey, Ma, what's wrong with me?" And, that's the message that folks with atypical brains and bodies get, that something is wrong with them, that their neurodivergence is in some way a problem to be solved, a deficit to be fixed. And that sticks in your sense of self. In some ways, it informs your sense of self. And I've heard from tens of thousands, frankly, probably hundreds of thousands at this point, of individuals who believe that they're stupid, crazy, lazy, broken because they deviate from the norm. But here's the truth. The truth is, those folks on that day in that room, they got the diagnosis wrong. The problem wasn't me, and it wasn't my neurodivergence. Now, I don't in any way, shape, or form want to minimize or make light of the very real neurobiologically based challenges that come with a whole continuum of brain and body differences. I struggle with paying attention. I do. I have the attention span of a gnat. I have explored the feasibility of stapling my car keys to my forehead, right? Like, I get it. I struggle with executive functioning and all that stuff. That's real. That's associated with ADD. There is a deficit of attention. I also struggle because of my learning differences with a whole constellation of academic